be sharing with you 5 different ways to do pizza. Every Friday night we have pizza at our house. We do like pizza and games or a movie. It used to be really just a traditional pizza, but I've kind of changed it up lately to do different types of pizzas. One of them in particular might be our new favorite that I'm gonna have to start incorporating in pizza night. I hope that you enjoy this video. I will link everything in the description box. Let's go ahead and just get started. Okay, for this taco pizza, these are the items you're going to need. You're going to need some lettuce, some cheese, a tomato, some taco sauce, a pound of ground beef. This sauce, it's really good, but it's also optional. Some flour, some oil, mozzarella cheese. The lettuce was optional, but it was really good on top. You're also going to need some yeast, about a tablespoon of yeast, and you're just going to mix that in 2 cups of warm water. And you're just going to let it sit until it gets really bubbly, about 5 minutes. Okay, now that our yeast is done, I'm going to go ahead and pour that into my stand-up mixing bowl. And I'm going to put in about half a tablespoon of salt and then 2.5 cups of flour. So that's going to be about half of our flour that we're going to use. Once it's done stirring, we're just going to continually add about half a cup at a time, and just until everything's incorporated and it's got like a little bit of stickiness that you can work with, but you don't want it too sticky. The oil is definitely optional. I just like adding oil to my pizza dough. I feel like it gives it a really good texture. You could add about 1 to 2 tablespoons, whatever you prefer. All right, now that it's done mixing, I'm just gonna roll it in a ball, and I'm gonna grease that pan with some oil. And then I'm just gonna put it back in there and let it sit for about 20 minutes, and then we can roll out our dough. Okay, so I have a family of 6, so I'm going to use a cookie sheet just to make this pizza. I mean, you don't have to use a big pan. You can use something smaller if you have a smaller family. I do put cornmeal on the bottom of my cookie sheet. It just helps it to not stick whenever it's done cooking. So I just like to use that. I think it helps really well. Then I'm just going to roll this out, and I'm going to put the taco sauce on the bottom and some cheese. I'm just going to bake it for probably about 5 minutes, just long enough so that it gets melted and the dough gets a little bit cooked through, but not all the way. And while that's baking in the oven for about 5 minutes at 400, I'm going to go ahead and get started on my hamburger beef. I'm just going to ground it up, and then we're going to put some taco seasoning on it. And we'll put a little bit of water in it as well. And then we're going to put that on top of our pizza once it's done cooking. right, you can put whatever type of toppings that you want on it. You can even put some refried beans on it, some black beans, lettuce, cheese, tomatoes, sour cream. You can put some like any type of like a sour cream sauce on it. That would even be really good. I think we wanted to have some beans on it. That would have been really good on it. Maybe some like ranch style beans would have been awesome on it. But this is how we did our pizza, and it turned out phenomenal. This was probably the first time that our family had made a homemade taco pizza before, and we are absolutely in love with it. This is a new style of pizza that I've been doing recently this year, and it's actually one of our favorite ways to do it just because the naan tastes so good. I like cooking with the naan or the flatbread pizza, and I usually get it when it's on sale at Aldi's when it's like half off. So, and it's really, really good. I definitely encourage anyone who hasn't tried it to go ahead and try it. And I just put some regular great value pizza sauce on it, some cheese, whatever kind of toppings you want. My kids normally are really boring and just want cheese pizza. So most of them are cheese, but I like sausage. My husband likes basically everything on it. So that's what we did for this night, for pizza night. And it turned out wonderful. We just baked them in the oven at 400 for maybe 10 to 15 minutes, just until it was nice and crispy. I usually, on my pizzas, I usually put some type of like parsley or Italian seasoning on them, just gives them extra flavor in it. Alright, the way I did this recipe is I'm actually going to go ahead and put in the flour, the yeast, and all the seasonings, and some water, and I'm actually going to let that bubble for a little bit, for about 5 minutes, and then I add in the rest of the flour and whatnot. So usually I just add in the yeast with the water and let that bubble, but this one was a little bit different than what I'm used to, but it turned out really, really well. It's really flavorful. It's actually one of the most flavorful crusts that I've ever made, so I was really excited about that. But this recipe called for 2.5 cups of flour, about a tablespoon of Italian seasoning, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of water, and about 1 to 2 tablespoons of oil. And I just mixed it up and until the dough was formable to where I could work with it. And then I'm going to go ahead and roll out the dough after it had risen for about 20 minutes. As you can see in the crust, it has tons and tons of seasonings all over it, so it is really, really flavorful. And I just made like a normal cheese pizza with this one, and this is what it turned out to look like when it was done. You can make it thinner or thicker, however you like, but this is what it turned out to look like. Well, if you know me, you know I like a good sell, so I'm using this clearance bread to good use. I'm going to go ahead and make a French loaf pizza, so I'm just going to cut it in half, and then I'm just basically going to put whatever type of toppings that I want on this. For my kids, I just did a cheese. I think for my husband, I just did a pepperoni. I didn't have a whole lot of toppings to put on this night, but I just put on my great value sauce, and it works out perfectly. The kids love it. This loaf is actually kind of like an Italian loaf. Has like garlic and different type of seasonings on it. So it was really flavorful. I put it in the oven, I think at 450 for maybe 10 minutes, and it was ready to go. Pizza night is not any easier than this right here. French loaf pizza is where it's at. Okay, so for this barbecue chicken pizza, I'm going to go ahead and cook this chicken in the crock pot. I did 3 chicken breasts in this crock pot, and I'm just going to add some onions, some seasoning, some barbecue sauce to it, and I'm going to put it on high for a couple hours. And if you guys do not cook with this Creole sauce, you really need to. I love cooking with this. It just adds so much flavor to practically anything that you make. So I did add maybe a tablespoon of this seasoning on top of that, and then I cooked it, and when it was done, I just went ahead and shredded it, and then I put it on top of my naan, which I'll show you in a minute. All right, here is my naan. So I'm doing 3 pizzas in this cast iron skillet. I just got this cast iron skillet. I got like a huge set of cast iron skillets, and I am just like in love with them. I love cooking with cast iron. They just add so much flavor. But I'm just going to put some barbecue sauce on the bottom of it, my shredded chicken on top of that. You could put onions and cilantro, basil, just there's so many different options that you could put on top of this pizza. I did some fresh basil. I just went and grabbed some out of my garden, and I put that on top of there with some mozzarella cheese or shredded, I think it's like a mixed cheese that I put on top of it, and put it in the oven at 400 for maybe 10 minutes, just until the bottom was crispy. And it was phenomenal. This was my first time making barbecue pizza, and it was amazing. You guys have to try this recipe. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe so you don't miss my next video.